Hello, everyone. If you are virtual and attending this session virtually, welcome. And in case you're not able to make it, you can definitely go back and listen to this. There will be recording available, and we'll be sharing it after it is done. Just today's topic is going to be automated monitoring for optimizing user experience in consumer product. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Madhumita Mantri. I'm a product manager working on StarTree Third Eye. It's an anomaly detection platform and an experience built on top of real-time analytics database called Apache Pinot. And I'm with StarTree for some time. And before StarTree, I was at LinkedIn and working with the same team for quite some time. So super excited to be here to talk about this topic. Subhadeep, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Madhu. My name is Shubhadeep. I've been working on ThirdEye for the past couple of years. I'm a founding engineer at StarTree and excited to be here and share all the work that we have done. So ThirdEye is an anomaly detection platform, as Madhumita said. We run on top of Apache Pinot, and we support a lot of real-time use cases as well as batch. So yeah, excited to be here. Over to you, Madhu.
So this is how the agenda is going to be for today. We'll start with a quick intro, which we did already, and then we talk about the challenges that impacts user experience in consumer products and understanding a little bit of anomaly detection and an overview about automated monitoring, how you could do using StarTree Third Eye, and then we'll dive deep into the case study, demo, and some architectural concepts, and then we will finally conclude. So quick overview about user experience. Must be wondering how automated monitoring can influence that. And before we dive into that, I want to quickly call out improving user experience and enabling increased user engagement is directly at times associated with revenue. Not only that users love your product and they use it more, but there's also revenue impact. And some of the examples I've called out, especially in the industries like retail, social media, e-commerce, or fintech, user are the key part of it for the product, and user engagement for consumer-facing products is extremely important. As an example, LinkedIn and Facebook are consumer-facing products, and they generate a lot of money through ads revenue, and hence monitoring user experience is also very important for business success and overall revenue impact. So what are some of the typical challenges usually users come across when it comes to user experience? As you can see in the right-hand side, that's a result of an A/B test. All of a sudden, it started seeing a surge in the user traffic as you are running the treatment versus the control. And in this case, sometimes you are confused. The traffic surge is healthy or there's something else going on. There could be some challenge. Knowing the root cause will help you to better strategize your work. As an example, if there is a new campaign launch happening along the side and you are running an A/B test and that is giving a false impression to you that there's a spike, and you might think that because of your product feature rollout, the user experience has improved and the user engagement has increased, and that may be a false alarm. And in this case, like knowing the root cause would truly help you to, one, optimize your A/B test and what feature you're rolling out. At the same time, you can correlate events like campaigns that are being run at the same time, and if that is contributing to the spike or drop. So that's one of the examples. The other example is if you are getting unexpected drop in traffic to your website, it could be alarming, because if you're an e-commerce site or retail site and you have a checkout page and that is timing out, apparently that's directly tied to revenue and you're losing revenue. And that's how it's also very important that these are the consumer facing experience you should be monitoring closely. So what's the solution? So the solution is one of the solution. Of course, there are multiple solutions, but monitoring page view is something very common. Most of the consumer product companies do. However, doing it at a much granular level, like geography or what product and services, what devices, there could be multiple other dimensions, especially in retail and e-commerce or fintech industries you can run into, and even social media, where we are looking into demographic of users, from where the drop or spike is happening. All those are very important to know and monitor. But if with the giant data, doing that in manually is going to be tricky, and that's where you develop blind spots, and that becomes a challenge. So that's why it's extremely important as a user, you need to or the owner of your product, you need to make sure that the potential areas of risk are monitored, and not only monitored, but at the same time there's necessary level of depth of insights are available at a granular level, at a dimension level, so that right corrective action can be taken by decision makers. So a little bit about anomaly detection. It's defined as unexpected change. How it can help really in this case is notifying the product analytics team or business operations team when something goes wrong, and providing the necessary root cause details or insights can help them to take better informed decision. As an example that I was sharing before, whether to continue A/B test or it's something else going on like campaign performance, and that is coming into the mix and causing your metrics to deviate. So detecting anomalies in this critical metrics will help you in providing the insights, not only you, but your decision makers as well. Now, this is a typical example which most of the companies who are consumer facing have consumer facing products, and they are doing insights and monitoring. They come across, like as an example, if you are monitoring your guest invites or warm signups, then what happens whenever there is a drop? Most of the time the execs are looking at it and they're worried about why this drop is, and then typically the investigation cycles are long, the time to detect and then resolve and monitor anomalies are very time consuming. And that too, if your data is very huge and you're a large consumer facing product, a lot of events data you collect, and looking into anomalies in that is not easy. So now what do you do? In that case, automating monitoring will be helpful, because I know there are teams I've spoken to where business operations team, they have a group of people, they stare at manually dashboards for 24/7. And it's not easy, because catching outliers in metrics is not easy when you have thousands and thousands of dashboards. So automating actually makes their life a lot more easier, because then you don't have to stare at the dashboards, but you get notified. And when you get notified, you try to see what's going wrong. So in this case, what we should automate is monitoring the KPIs that you're trying to monitor, and identifying the anomaly. You don't have to manually identify those anomalies, but the system identifies for you, and also provides you the necessary insights so you can take corrective action and understand the impact. So that was the inspiration behind StarTree Third Eye. And StarTree Third Eye was born because of that. It was born at LinkedIn, and back then CEO of StarTree was part of those war rooms and had seen this challenge being in several issues where critical business metrics will deviate, and group of people were manually trying to triage and solve the problem. So StarTree Third Eye is uniquely defined and trying to solve this problem. Like it fast tracks problem solving. It applies the applied anomaly detection. So you don't have to write code yourself, an algorithm run on the data, that you just have to plug and play your data source and then onboard your data to Pinot, and everything else works smoothly thereafter with a simple point and click experience. And the best part of StarTree Third Eye, since it is built on top of Apache Pinot, you can run a lot of aggregations on top of it in matters of milliseconds, or like very lower latency. And that helps with detecting your anomalies quickly, and it could be near real time almost. And good part is most of the real time solutions, they sometimes struggle to combine the batch data that is stored in your batch, say your GCP or S3 or blob store. So in that case, what happens is it also allows you to blend both the data and put it in Pinot, and does real-time aggregation on top of real-time data and the stored data. The benefit is that, like most of the business metrics, even though you expect real time, a lot of time you need some data from your stored data source, so which is not real time, but you want to blend and then detect anomalies on top of it. And StarTree Third Eye does that very nicely because of the power of Apache Pinot. And the second pillar is applied science. I won't speak a lot about it. You will see in action in some time by Subhadeep. So just to know, that's a point and click experience, which helps you to apply some detection model on top of your data and detect outliers. And then the interactive UI that helps you to find insights. Again, I'll leave the thrill later on for Subhadeep to cover. And some of the key features already spoken, the three pillars. In addition to that, we do have an API group set of API that you can use, and a lot of people at like, because it was born and grew at LinkedIn, people have also built AI ops applications, business monitoring applications on top of it using Third Eye APIs. So you can get that advantage as well, along with the point and click experience and the platform greatness that Third Eye provides. Besides, we have a small community growing, and we look forward to your engagement and contribution out there, and to grow this community and make it better and better. Benefits, we have clearly seen using Third Eye. People who have tried before, they have seen increased profits, reduced risk, and increased productivity overall. When we say increased productivity, is developer productivity. So you, just like you were interested in developing anomaly detection application, not only like you will get advantage of using this, and operational overhead will go away from your side using something like StarTree, but in addition, you can be more creative and innovative on top of applying intelligent solutions on top of it. And you can use out-of-box models, or it also allows you to plug your own model and try it out. So a lot of good stuff you could do. And at the same time, you can also reduce risk and profits for your stakeholders. So with that, I will hand it over to Subhadeep. For pause for a second, if any questions, otherwise we can dive into Subhadeep's presentation. Subhadeep, I'll stop sharing. I guess you will go ahead and share, or should I continue here?
No, sounds good. I'll probably share because I need to do the demo as well. It'll be easier for me to coordinate that.
I'll probably respond to questions if there are any offline. You go ahead and
yes. Cool. So I'm going to dive into a use case first, probably do a demo, and then I'll get to a little bit of the nitty-gritties of how Third Eye works and what are we doing under the hood. So imagine this use case, right? So you have, let's say, something like page views coming in, and you have this nicely seasonal metric which keeps dropping on near the weekends, and then keeps climbing up during the week, during the week, and then
all of a sudden you see this drop. And then you basically wonder what's going on. And this is not a very uncommon question. This is what happens in real time. And most of the metrics aren't that well formed. A lot of them do have a lot of randomness in them. But then the challenge becomes how do you identify whether this is a normal move in the metric or something is off? So looking at this example data set, right? So think of something like page views. It could have dimensions like, let's say, country, device, for example, if you're a mobile phone or laptop, etc., and operating system. And this could be the dimensions. And you're just aggregating on the total number of views. So typically with ThirdEye, what we would try to categorize based on some of these rules that we create is that, okay, whether it could be an anomaly because is it a drop more than something that we expect? In this case, we do have this concept of a baseline, meaning that what we are trying to estimate, this could be like historical data, based on historical data. This could be a forecasting model that can be used. But effectively, what we are trying to do is try to build a frame of reference and see if something is really off based on the bounds that we have for the set alert. And in this case, if this is really an anomaly, we want to go ahead and investigate, what is going on. And, if this is really an anomaly or this is just some known event, maybe it could be a holiday, maybe it could be, something like, let's say Christmas or Thanksgiving, where maybe people are not just enjoying with their family and there is no activity on the website, for example. So with that, let me just go ahead and jump into an instance to kind of walk through some of these examples, and then we can get into more deep dive into ThirdEye. So this is, give me 1 second. I have this Zoom control bar that I'm not able to move away from. Okay, cool. So this is what a normal ThirdEye instance looks like. We have a dashboard. We show you what are the recent anomalies, what are your alerts. You can jump into any of these metrics and see what's going on. But for the purposes of this demo, I'll probably start with something like how to create an alert, from a basic example. So I'll go to the new user group, so it's just simpler. So in ThirdEye, I mean, the hello world of ThirdEye is probably a threshold alert. And if you go to just create a basic alert, and in this case, let's say we choose our example, for example, page views, and we have a views metric. And now the threshold obviously asks for some limits. Now I'm going to plug in some limits out of nowhere, so this won't matter right now, but I'm going to show you how you can do this without setting these limits. So in this case, for example, since I know the data set very well, I just clearly set some very predefined limits, but then ThirdEye is able to run the detection on top of it and say that, okay, yeah, some of these values don't lie outside the threshold, and therefore I mark this as an anomaly. So when we do this, you can actually go ahead and click next, and you can say that, okay, I want to schedule this alert, meaning that I want to basically continuously monitor this metric for the set of rules. I can attach a notification to it. Maybe, let's say, I want to email it to myself, or I want to create a new alert where I want to go ahead and let's say, I click webhook. Okay, so I have my own sample subscription group for a demo, and I'm going to go ahead and, let's say, tie it to some webhook that I have internally, or maybe I can email myself and go ahead and create it. So in this case, I will probably just name my alert just so that the name conflicts don't cause any problems. Go ahead and create, and this will probably create my alert. Now, under the hood, what ThirdEye is doing is ThirdEye has a set of workers which is in the background, and as you can see, the red anomaly just appeared a few seconds after I created. What's happening in the background is that we are triggering this task detection, and the task detection is happening in the background. It's generating the anomalies. The UI is refreshing itself, and you get to see the anomalies. Now, obviously, like I said, in this case, we are doing a very defined set of bounds. So anything outside this bound is going to be marked as an anomaly. But they're going to be much more interesting use cases, and we're going to discuss some of them. So first thing that we notice is the weekly seasonality that I was talking about, and I want to share that. So here I have an alert set up with the same process that I have, just that the configuration is set up on a weekly basis. So in this case, what is happening is that we are noticing that over the past week, if I compare, we see this anomaly getting triggered. And this is the same anomaly that I was showing in the previous demo. Okay, so now in ThirdEye, you can just click on this particular region here, which is marked as an anomaly, and then jump onto it. So when you jump onto the anomaly, what happens is you basically navigate to the exact instance where we saw a deviation which is beyond an expected value, right? So not only does this allow you to view the anomaly, this gives you a system of feedback. So for example, you can actually say that, hey, is this a valid anomaly? Is it an expected change? What kind of change is it? And ThirdEye uses all of these feedback and captures into the system so that like the algorithms that ThirdEye actually offers, we provide a way of under the hood to figure out or take some of these feedback into consideration when you're doing anomaly prediction. And comments are of course present. You can add comments, but this is mostly for the user. So you can have feedback associated with anomaly. In this case, we are going to dive in deeper. And what I mean by that is how to investigate and do root cause analysis on top of an anomaly. Now, let's say we have seen this anomaly and we want to know whether something is happening, which is funny here. So I'm going to go ahead and click investigate, and we get to this RCA page, which is basically trying diving deeper. And it shows the anomaly, but it also shows me a bunch of things here. So in this case, if you notice that there's a heat map present, and the heat map is actually showing you on a per dimension level, what is the contribution change that is different from this whatever is this anomaly region versus something like a week back in this case. So for example, I'm comparing it to 1 week back, and I'm trying to see what changed in this week. And the gray areas are basically in places of less interest because probably nothing has changed much. But the colorful areas is what I'm kind of more interested about, where I see that, okay, some of these are much more blue, meaning that things have increased, versus some of the things which are red. Now, notice that in this case, Chrome is a big red. So what could have probably happened here is the Chrome contribution to the overall metric has dropped significantly, and while the others have gone up. So that's what ThirdEye is telling us. If I go to top contributors, ThirdEye will actually go ahead and run the detection. Sorry, this is an algorithm that we have internally, which will go ahead and try to do the same thing that we did manually on the heat map for us. And it kind of tries to relate things which are important to the in this particular anomaly. So in this case, it's pointing out Chrome 0.3 and device equal to phone had the maximum contribution to the anomaly, while there were others. But we can see a common theme here, and that is Chrome. So maybe what could have happened is there might be an issue with page views for users who are actually using Chrome. And this is what ThirdEye may try to indicate. So we can also go ahead and dive into each individual dimension. For example, if we go ahead and dive into Chrome here, we see that it doesn't really if we look at the heat map, it's pretty bland at this stage, meaning that nothing else in the metric has changed. Now, in a more real metric, this is actually a similar scenario, but in a more real scenario, we'll go through a much more colorful heat map, which I'll show you in a bit. But the idea here is that to notice more vibrant colors in like both increases and decreases can actually give you a lot of insight as to what is going on underlying in the metric. So even though the overall metric is page views, across dimensions, a lot of things are changing, which can actually give you some insight as to what's going on. Also, ThirdEye allows you to add things into context. For example, in this case, browser equal to Chrome, I can actually go ahead and add it to the chart, meaning that I can see how the Chrome part of the story has built up compared to the overall metric. So in this case, the new purple colored line here is actually the metric where just browser is equal to Chrome, where the other ones are left as is. Like the blue one is the activity and the green one is the predicted value. And we can compare to, let's say, for example, if I go back and let's say, if I use some other browser, for example, let's say Safari, right? And I add that to the chart. Now I can actually see that for the orange line Safari, it didn't really dip that much compared to what Chrome did. But because the contribution of, let me just go back, the contribution of Safari is probably not that large in this case. So the current value and the current value here is what I'm going to go ahead and monitor. maybe they didn't affect, but maybe the contribution of Chrome was much more. So these are the kind of questions that we can kind of dive into and figure out whether some of these correlations that we are seeing inside the anomaly can be possible causations. And that's what ThirdEye is trying to get to. So we are essentially trying to figure out whether, can we dial the anomaly down to a certain event. Now, in this case, if I go to events, there is an event that we have created, and this could be ThirdEye actually ingests events. So we could, you have APIs to ingest events into ThirdEye. There's possible connections that you can do via Jira or whatever, but you can push these events into ThirdEye, and ThirdEye can actually line them up and correlate them. So meaning that if in the nearby term period, if there are events, something like a holiday, or maybe something like an upgrade or a deployment that has happened, all of these things show in one place. So for example, it's very easy for you to go ahead and capture these events and throw them onto the same chart. Now, if you look at this and say, okay, maybe the Chrome upgrade actually happened, like pretty much started right, right at the point where the anomaly started. So there could be a possible reason that because of this Chrome upgrade, this anomaly is occurring, and that is probably a possible root cause for the event. So what I'm going to do is actually going ahead and save this investigation, and let's say we call that thing an anomaly investigation because of Chrome upgrade. And ThirdEye will save this investigation for you so that you can share this using an URL, and you can go back to the anomaly and you will be able to see all the investigations that folks around in your team have done. And you can go back to the investigation, add more information onto the chart or context here, and save it for for just keeping track of what kind of issues are you guys seeing with the system. So that in all is the broad is a flow of where you can get from anomaly to the root cause. Now let's look at some more interesting ways that ThirdEye can actually help you find problems. So in this case, for example, we just showed how we are doing percentage change over, let's say, the overall metric. Now ThirdEye can actually do a lot more than that. For example, in this case, this is what we call a dimension exploration alert, which I've set up. And what you can do is you can not only just monitor your overall metric, but you can actually monitor slices of the metric and do all of them in one single alert. And that gives you some interesting results. So for example, in this case, I have this dimension exploration alert, which not only monitors the overall metric, but it actually monitors different slices of it. So for example, in this case, we see that the overall metric is looking something like this, which we've seen just now. But this is just for US. So this is the entire US traffic. And we also see that the same problem that we saw in the anomaly is actually visible in US as well. And we obviously see that the US contribution is lower than the overall contribution, of course, because everything together will probably be a higher number because you are simply aggregating by sum. Now, for the purpose of this demo, I've actually created a separate segment called a separate dimension called US and Safari. So we're not only just monitoring on one dimension, but maybe multiple dimensions underneath. So in this case, this is traffic for just US and Safari. And if you notice the graph here, you see that there is actually no anomaly here. The traffic is actually pretty much regular. There is no anomaly that we see. So this is going back to the previous thesis that Chrome could be a possible issue and that Safari actually faced no deviation in the metric whatsoever. Right. And the beauty of dimension exploration is that you can not only monitor let's say by country or by device or by iOS, you can actually find your interesting set of dimensions that you are interested in. And we'll be showing more tools on how we can figure out what kind of dimensions would be actually interesting for a certain metric. So coming back to the demos here, like I showed you threshold, I showed you percentage change, but all of these are like very defined kind of rule-based algorithms. Now let's look at things, a more interesting metric which has a lot more deviation. This is the US order sales data, and if you look at this metric, this has actually quite a bit of like variance and spikiness. And it's actually hard to compare this week over week, and maybe it won't even make sense. So what we are using here is a StarTree internal algorithm called ETS. Under the hood, it's similar to a trend seasonality sort of detector. And we can see that, let me turn on this. So what ThirdEye is trying to do is it's trying to kind of build a zone of confidence, and it allows giving the metric some level of freedom in terms of, moving around. And anything which is outside those bounds, it's what is being termed as an anomaly. So this is another dimension exploration alert where I'm trying to monitor the US order sales. And I'm doing this for the Midwest region, the overall metric, and different regions like Northeast or West, etc. And all of these obviously have like different anomalies, but I'm going to go ahead and again show you how the entire flow of the anomaly to an investigation can actually prove an give interesting results and insights on how a metric is behaving. For example, let's look at this Midwest example, right? And we see that there is a big spike here, and we wonder what this happened about. So if I actually go ahead and click on this spike, we can jump onto the anomaly here. And we see that, yes, it's actually like the spike is quite, bigger than the metric around it. And that's why it's being flagged as an anomaly. And using the same process, I can go to investigate. And ThirdEye will actually show what is going on, how the contributions changed week over week or month over month. So I can go ahead and, change this to, like, if I compare it to a multiple weeks, etc. I can go ahead and compare it with different time frames to figure out, like, okay, what would be a good reference point and how would it change. Like in this example, like we can notice that I see this distribution for a distributor, for example, which is like a giant, 540% increase in contribution to a sales channel. So maybe this is something that came up, or maybe this really increased before, where the 1 week back, the baseline value was 5, and this week is 32. So these are the kind of things that ThirdEye can actually tell you. And as you dive deeper into the metric, you can probably see that there was actually like the distribution factor actually went ahead and contributed significantly to the overall metric. This is actually a real data set, and analyses like these is going to give you more insights as to how your metric is behaving, or what is contributing underneath to your metric, which kind of is causing these random changes. Okay, I think that's pretty much on this side. Let me know if any questions. I can probably answer them as we go. So with that information, I've actually showed you both of these anomalies, so I'm not going to go over these. Let me jump into ThirdEye a little deeper as to how we operate and what is going on in the hood. So with ThirdEye, what we are essentially doing is we are monitoring live data. This could be real time, this could be batch flow, etc. And we are mostly focusing on business metrics. And we have typically seen that, like, in order for business metrics typically work in patterns, and having a sort of different algorithms which adhere to different kinds of patterns actually gave us really good results in terms of different data sets and different verticals that we have. And ThirdEye gives you a lot of a huge tool set around what kind of what recipes that you can use for what kind of data. The internal workflow for alert, which we are going to talk about in detail, is actually pretty flexible, and it allows you to handle a diverse set of use cases. And once you do find some anomalies, you can use the ThirdEye's notification service to notify operators or admins who are interested in knowing what is to be done for this, or is there an action item for it. And we support a lot of integrations with different kinds of channels. ThirdEye not only helps you reduce the mean time to detect a problem, it also helps you mean time to resolve the problem. And that's what the RCA module is about. It is basically trying to correlate different kinds of events and metrics and bring them together in front of you to kind of build a use case and find a causation from that. And lastly, we've tried to make it as easy to use. Of course, there's a bunch of flexibility here. So we're constantly trying to improve this product as we go. So this is typically what a ThirdEye workflow looks like. You would host your metric in some sort of time series database. We are using Pinot because Pinot provides us a bunch of opportunities. Especially ThirdEye is extremely noisy. So for example, when you're viewing the heat map, ThirdEye is actually querying constantly in terms of what kind of multiple group bys and things that help us figure out, like, okay, what is your contribution per slice, per group of dimensions, etc. And having a fast time series database which can handle that kind of scale and constant noisy queries from an anomaly detection platform really, really helps. So this vertical integration gives us a lot of power in terms of operating and also monitoring different, not just the overall metric, but different sizes of that metric. And that's what we are using underneath as well. So we're taking a highly scalable, low latency SQL storage engine and a time series database. We are querying the metrics out of it, and then we are running different kinds of DAGs on top of it. These DAGs are directed acyclic graphs, as we call it, are essentially workflows that we are running and different kinds of anomaly detection algorithms. It could be simple, like thresholds or percentage change over week over week, or it could be slightly more complex, where we are doing trend seasonality based detections or pattern wise detections over different time slices, and depends on how far historical data you want to go. This will kind of grab more and more data from your system in order to predict the next value and see whether that lies in the bounds that you expect or not. Lastly, we've spoken about notification service and the root cause analysis model. So this is the entire flow of how ThirdEye actually operates in terms of starting from the data and ending to an event. Now, focusing on this metric and anomaly detection part, this is something that I have spoken about in a little bit of detail, but I also probably will dive into the cohort recommender a little bit. So dimension exploration gives you the ability to monitor metrics for sizes. A cohort recommender is another tool that we offer, and what we are doing is we're trying to figure out, okay, what are the things that you want to look at which contributes the maximum to your business. So we are really looking for business impact here. So for example, what I mean is, let's say that you have page views per country, right? And imagine you're primarily operating in, let's say, US and Canada. So all of a sudden, if let's say you launched a new country, like for example, let's say France, right? And you don't have any significant traffic there, maybe that might not impact your business at this time. So you're probably better off not monitoring them on the same scale as this. As and when it'll get speed, it'll probably do the same. Similarly, let's say your primary revenue comes from, let's say, iOS devices, and you let's say have a Windows phone, for example, or an Android. Maybe you're not monetized yet. So the cohort recommender is actually a tool which gives you the ability to figure out what kind of dimensions are important to you based on the business conditions that you can apply on top of the metric, and based on that, we'll be generating those dimensions. These dimensions will get fed into the dimension exploration piece, and then we'll go ahead and do our anomaly detection as well. This is something that I've spoken about, the RCA heat map, the top contributors and events. All three together provides a good suite. Heat map gives you a lot of manual flexibility in terms of understanding what each of these pieces are, in terms of your data, how you can, slice and dice your data across different dimensions. And top contributors is an automated way of ThirdEye to giving you upfront what are the things that we see impact your metric at the point that you have selected, the anomaly specifically. And ThirdEye is, at the end of the day, root cause analysis is trying to boil down all this analysis into the event which has actually caused this anomaly, right? And so if you bring the more events you bring into ThirdEye will be able to throw them onto the map so that you can exactly figure out, okay, what event had happened during the time frame that I'm interested in. And that way we can actually correlate and figure out what could be the possible causes of the anomaly. Before diving into this, let me just quickly go ahead and show you the cohort recommender, which I actually missed. So if I go back to the create alert flow, right? And you might have seen this. Okay, I've clicked on the basic alert, but what is a multidimensional alert? And that's what I'm trying to get to. So for example, if I look at something like, let's say a multidimensional alert, and I select something like, let's say, pull request merge events, right? And this is basically the entire GitHub data set. So we have this workflow which captures a bunch of GitHub events and throws them into a database, and it's interesting stuff. If you look at something like number of comments, for example, and let's say you want to look which organizations, so these are dimensions of the data set. And if you go ahead and look at these organizations, let me just quickly select a time range that might make sense. Yeah, so I'm looking at total number of, so in this case, when I apply a dimension filter called organizations, I'm looking at organizations which commented, whose overall contribution to number of comments is more than 5%. This is a very cooked up use case, but the idea here is, can we figure out what dimensions or what values of these dimensions contribute more than X% over the entire metric. So in this case, for example, if we go ahead and generate dimensions, we see that, okay, the top projects that have more than a 1% impact over the overall number of comments that we have in our database is Microsoft, OpenShift, and Apache. And you can, you can go ahead and reduce this threshold. But what we're trying to do is essentially build some sort of, so imagine if you have something like page views, for example. Let's say, in this case, we select page views, and we want to see a combination of, let's say, country and browser. And we want to do drill down into what all possible dimensions that have an overall contribution of, let's say, more than 1%. Maybe I forgot to select something. Oh, I forgot the metric. Okay. All right. So in this case, for example, let's say I selected page views, and I'm choosing on, I'm trying to explore on country and browser because that is a combination that I'm interested in. And what ThirdEye is doing is drilling down into the data and giving me the contribution. So for example, browser equal to Chrome is probably a largest share in terms of impact, and it's giving me a 50% impact of the overall metric, whereas the next largest share is country equal to US. So it's able to mix and match between dimensions and also on combinations of dimensions. So Chrome and US in together gives me a 20% contribution to the overall metric. So I can actually go ahead and select these, or go ahead and select all of them, and go and create a metric. Create an alert. So in this case, I'm just going to select 4, and then I can go ahead and create a multi-dimensional alert. And if I use the previous flow here, in this case, because the pattern is completely seasonal, we don't see an anomaly. We do see a drop here, but as you can see, because of the data that we have here, probably ThirdEye is trying to learn the pattern, and it gets the pattern eventually. But because this data is not available for a longer history, it probably misses this particular anomaly that we were discussing earlier. But you get the idea in this case. Like, we are basically trying to pattern fit and understand the trend and seasonality over a period of time, and see if things change. So for example, in this case, if we had many deviations beyond this, so ThirdEye actually learns the pattern very closely here, right? Anything more than that, we would flag it as an anomaly in this case. But because we don't have a metric behaves perfectly, in this case, we are not we're flagging this as an anomaly. So you can go ahead and set all of these things, and finally you can create an alert, and you can have a multi-dimensional alert setup very quickly in ThirdEye. And these metrics probably are the top ones that are contributing to your overall page views. So that gives you a decent amount of coverage in terms of that, okay, the big items in my metric are not getting affected. The smaller items, maybe I'm not that worried. Maybe I'll look at them at a different cadence. I don't need to monitor them that very closely. Okay. So I think that was the thing that I missed. Coming back to the architecture part, I just this is a very complex slide, but the takeaway that I want to give users from this slide is that ThirdEye has a very modular architecture in terms of the pieces. We have carefully thought what to tie with what, and we have a very API-driven interface and a very flexible way of interacting with a lot of these components that we expose as plugins. So two takeaways here. One thing is ThirdEye, you can pretty much do any operation via API, and you don't need to interact with the UI at all. So it's completely decoupled there and that way, and pretty much the UI is a client to the API. Other than that, in terms of plugins, ThirdEye actually supports a very so ThirdEye isolates its class path, meaning that you can actually have your own plugin, your own implementation, your own bring your own set of jars and have a small mini application. And ThirdEye will just, if you have implemented a couple of interfaces, ThirdEye will just load your plugin as is, and we'll be able to run things. What can we do in terms of plugins? We can plug in different kinds of data sources. We can plug in different kinds of notifications. So let's say you want to integrate with something like, you have your own internal messaging system, or you have some system that you want to capture in anomalies and build reports from. You can easily add a plugin to grab those notifications. You can easily add a plugin to have a new kind of detection algorithm, in which case you just tell us that, okay, this is the new detector that ThirdEye wants you to load. And you just drop in a jar and everything gets loaded and works. In terms of high-level pieces, mostly we've covered most of them. But all of these things, like the detectors, the data sources, the notifications, the RCA, all of these things are actually pluggable pieces that you can push in. And that is broadly where ThirdEye actually obtains a lot of flexibility and is able to handle a bunch of these different kinds of data, which actually needs different kinds of recipes. So this is this is a very detailed slide, but what we are doing here is we are offering different versions of ThirdEye, right? So ThirdEye is available as a community edition, and that is free. You can pretty much download, build, and then you're good to go. We also have enterprise editions too, and a bunch of tool things, for example, dimension exploration, etc., that I'm showing you are actually part of the enterprise edition. So we're trying to provide users with an easy way of getting up to speed with the platform, as well as we're offering a bunch of tools on top of that to make sure that we are solving deep, insightful problems that actually we see in some of these customer use cases as we work at StarTree on data and large volume data. And we are trying to build these data verticals and different kinds of solutions on top of them. And for example, like, hooking up different detectors, having cohort recommendation, having dimensional exploration, all of these things we have in our enterprise edition, while more simpler use cases and a lot of these things like threshold, everything is available. Pretty much the entire package is available on this on ThirdEye community edition. Madhu, do you want to add anything here or any call outs?
No, I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah, I mean, these are our differentiated features, some of them which is available only in enterprise editions, but there are also good amount of features available in community edition for someone to start monitoring and alerting. And most of the UI features are out there. So I guess, and yeah, enterprise edition also is free trial, no credit card. And in case you want to do your free trial for a longer period, then that option is also there. You can reach out to us and then we can work on that.
Perfect. All right. That's it pretty much. To conclude, so we have a next meetup coming up in March, and this is about real-time anomaly detection for seamless rideshare experience. So stay tuned for that. We'll be doing a bunch of events upcoming as well. We have the real-time summit, and feel free to grab QR codes from here on how you can get a shot at ThirdEye and start playing around with it. Yeah, that's pretty much on our end.
Yeah, then you have anything to add?
No, it was everything and it was great. Thank you so much. Thank you. And we'll meet all of you in the next meetup.
Yep, and maybe we can also look for in the community if somebody is interested to share some interesting experience in anomaly detection. Overall, they can reach out to you, right, Yarden, if they want to be a meetup speaker.
Yes, for sure. If anyone is interested of being a meetup speaker or in general, they can reach out to me via Slack.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks,
Ciao.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.